You're listening to How I Met Your Monster, a podcast that explores the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. My name's Zach.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Casey.
And together we dive into the world of horror to find out how filmmakers have introduced us to our favorite monsters time and time again. This is How I Met Your Monster.
Boss, you opened it. We came.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
Explorers in further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
Call you Meatloaf Jack! Surprise, Sydney.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on a new episode of How I Met Your Monster. If you're not already subscribed to the show, make sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. There's no end to the possibilities.
Owl Post.
Owl Post? Oh,
Yeah.
like old school mail?
Yeah, Pigeon Carrier. Morse code. We're also on Morse code.
If you join us on our Patreon, you will get you can download Morse code versions of the show.
If only.
Today we're talking about The Black Phone, directed by Scott Derrickson and starring Ethan Hawke.
Yep.
You guys, I noticed so many similarities to Sinister in The Black Phone, and I had no idea that they were the same director.
That's funny. You're like, I wonder how they cast Ethan Hawke in this. How did they convince him?
Yeah.
I wonder if they know each other.
I watched Sinister once, but I don't think it was my cup of tea. So
Why was it not your cup of tea? Was it too dark? Because a lot of people claim that it is too dark.
too dark. Danny, do you know me?
That's fair.
I don't remember why I didn't like it. I think that it was the end. I think there was something about the end that was like just too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember really any of the movie. Is there somebody hanging from a tree at some point?
Yeah, there's a whole family. I think that's how the movie starts.
Okay, that's all I remember.
Yeah. In The Black Phone, it was like the film grain 8mm or 16mm like flashbacks. Okay. And I was like, oh, they kind of did that in Sinister, which also has Ethan Hawke. And then like when he gets down into the basement, there's like this line across the wall. And I was like, oh, that looks like the Sinister poster.
Yeah.
And
good eye.
Oh yeah, because the girl's like dragging her hand on the wall, and there's like that line down the center of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Son of a bitch.
So yeah.
Went over my head.
And C. Robert Cargill and Scott Derrickson wrote the screenplay based on a short story by Joe Hill.
Who is Stephen King's son.
Yes, Stephen King's son. And there are some differences between the book and the film that I found. In the book, he's like a fat, bald guy, and he's like a clown, not a magician.
The Grabber.
And so it's kind of like Gacy. What's his name? John Wayne Gacy?
Yeah, John Wayne Gacy.
That's interesting because they did a similar thing with Psycho. In the book, Norman Bates is sort of a heavier set character who's more of like kind of traditionally sort of not your leading man.
Okay.
And then in the movie, Alfred Hitchcock, I guess they wanted to do something that made him seem more classically sort of approachable, like it kind of like to subvert, because that movie's all about like subverting the expectation. So I wonder if they went a similar route because Ethan Hawke is like a grade A hunk. So
while I was watching this, I actually thought that I liked that he was a magician, because in my mind I was like equating him to a clown. And I was like, it's like a less played out version of like the clown thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also just like fun little parallel, like a very kind of on the nose parallel of he's literally making the kids disappear.
Yes.
So it's like they're his ultimate magic trick.
Yeah.
Damn.
I'm not recommended at parties though. to like make the kid disappear at the party. So he is wise to wait until he's off the clock.
What was with the black balloons? Was there any significance to those, or was it?
I thought it was as like a distraction because the balloon's gonna come out, so it looks like he's trying to like get the balloons together.
Yeah,
and you can sort of like hide the kid in the balloons.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Gotcha.
Too. Instead of just grabbing a kid, it's like.
Oh, speaking of which, that scene bothered me so much because we kind of like, as the audience, are anticipating him to. We're putting it together because we know what Finney knows, where it's like, oh, black balloons. My sister said that that's a sign that this is the grabber. So you're thinking, okay, he's going to put it together and get out of here. But by the time we're registering it, he's registering it, and the grabber already has like attacked him.
Yeah.
And that scene really scared me. That was, I thought that was really effective.
There were some tense moments in this, the fucking padlock scene.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But before we get fully into the Black Phone, as always, I want to hear what you guys have watched this week. Casey?
I watched quite a bit of things. Quite a bit. I watched quite a bit.
As Ja Rule once said, come on, lay it on me, girl.
All right. Baby girl, put it on me. Yeah.
Oh, put it on me. Yeah, don't lay it on me.
I don't know. It may be lay, it may be put. I don't know.
Let's call him up. Let's call up Ja Rule.
Yeah.
Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, boop.
Hey, Ja.
Yeah. Or is that, no, that was more like DMX. Rest in peace.
Yeah, R.I.P.
He's from the grave. I watched 7 episodes of Cabinet of Curiosities.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How many are there in total?
Yeah. 8.
Okay.
He's just like, fuck that last one. I'm not committed.
Well, I started.
I'm out.
Okay.
I'm out.
So I watched the first 7. The first 4 I really, really, really liked.
Mm-hmm.
The third one is my favorite.
Okay.
5 and 6 were kind of lame.
Okay.
7 was it was good, but also not. But we can talk about that after if you guys end up watching them.
Okay.
The 8th one I started and I was kind of bored. And then I instead put on the movie Terrifier. And
are you
just can't believe
first time watcher of Terrifier?
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't believe that I haven't watched it before.
Yeah, that seems like right up
That's
your
the
alley.
one with like the really feel good ending, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like the ending.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't believe that I hadn't watched it. It's like exactly what I wanted out of like an over the top campy slasher.
Mm-hmm.
Art the Clown is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's like a mime clown. So he literally doesn't make any noise. Like even when he gets hurt.
He just mouths it. He's like, ow.
Yeah. It's so funny.
I've been avoiding Terrifier for just the longest time because I know that it's just like over the top gore.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, Art the Clown seems kind of stupid to me.
No, he's cool. He's so cool.
I don't like the look of him, and I'm like, I don't know.
I love it. I can't wait to make an Art the Clown costume, to be honest with you. It's going to be the next thing I work on. Oh, yeah. I can't wait to watch the second one.
I heard it's like, even more grotesque.
Yes, yeah. That's what I heard too.
Yeah, and it's making like big money.
The budget for the first one was only $35,000.
Wow.
Okay.
And like the acting is horrible.
Yeah.
But everything else about it is fine. You know, it's not like the effects are really good for what they are. You know, like it's over the top, campy and stuff like that, but they're still not like horribly done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I did also watch Barbarian.
We kind of talked about this, didn't we? Over text.
Yeah, but I'm pretending that we didn't.
Oh.
The show.
listeners, we're pulling the veil away. The lies are surfacing. We've talked about some of these things.
Yeah.
You know too much.
All right. What did you guys watch?
I only watched the first 2 episodes of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. And I loved it. I thought they were really fun.
Yeah.
Excited to continue. I love how Guillermo just comes out and does his little. Mm-hmm. Again, so speaking cute. Of Hitchcock, it feels very like Hitchcock with like his show, and he's just sort of like part of his stories now. We don't just know him as this sort of like invisible entity that creates these things. It's now like it's the full package, which I love, and he's earned it. I also watched an old movie from the early 60s called Carnival of Souls, which I had been meaning to watch for a while.
Okay.
Really fun little horror picture.
Horror
picture.
Horror picture.
It's an old horror picture from the 60s. But fun little story. Spooky, creepy. I also watched, we were talking about that short film, whatchamacallit, Tickle Monster?
Oh, yeah.
God, that short was good.
Creepy, right?
Oh, my God.
It was so Remy Weeks, the writer and director, did a feature film after Tickle Monster called His House, which is on Netflix right now. And it is about these Sudanese refugees who kind of are forced to move to London and kind of start over because they were basically escaping this war-torn community and were basically escaping immediate death if they didn't leave. But they're carrying some sort of emotional baggage with them that is sort of explored a little bit throughout the movie in the form of these supernatural intruders, I guess, that reveal some things about sort of their journey getting there. And it's just it was very spooky.
Okay.
It was a really beautiful, very sad, very emotional story about kind of being forced to adapt into a new community and this sort of, just kind of casual, in a lot of cases, just like blatant racism that they had to face in this new community, which is just like really sad. But then like them also feeling like, well, now we still have to conform to it if we want to survive, despite all the prejudice that they're facing. So yeah, highly recommend. And then that's the last like horror-y thing that I watched, but I did get the opportunity about a week and a half ago. I did a trip down to Los Angeles and I spent a night at the Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. There's actually one moment where I was walking through the Black Phone walkthrough and I did get spooked a few times by the grabber specifically, because they had him positioned at like the perfect spots where he'd like come out at you with like a weapon. And I was like, oh God, son of a bitch. Like he really, it was effective. I'm glad I got the Universal experience.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I think that's all I watched.
Cool.
Zachary?
I too watched the first 2 episodes of Cabinet of Curiosities. I watched about 3/4 of a movie on Netflix called Old People.
Okay.
Terrifying.
Yeah, Casey, you would be freaked out by it. It was good, but like kind of like you were saying earlier, Casey, like just not my cup of tea. And so like I was watching it and then it was like the halfway point and I was like, well, I'm not really interested anymore, but I feel like I want to just finish it so I know what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course.
And then I watched a little bit more and I was like, okay, I don't need to know what happens. And I turned it off. But that's not to say that it was a very well-made movie. So I can't say, I'm not saying it's a bad movie at all.
Yeah.
It was interesting because the way it's shot, I don't know if it was in a different frame rate or maybe there was all these like weird, like little zooms and kind of so there was just something about it that was like, this is filmed differently, which was kind of cool.
Oh, you like that? Okay.
Yeah, I liked it. It was okay. Interesting. I was like, okay. It was just like I don't know, because the old people were kind of like zombies, but not. And then like they were like they would like attack the person, and then I was just like, eh. And I wouldn't even, now that I'm saying it, like I wouldn't even say they were zombie like. They're just, you just got to watch it. I don't know, or don't watch it. I don't care.
This is a recommendation or a warning. You just got to see it to see how bad it is. But I wouldn't watch it. I didn't, but you should see it.
But something that you should watch that I did enjoy, it's an oldie but a goodie, not really an oldie, but Red Eye.
Oh, so good.
Guys, we need to accept it's an oldie. We are not young anymore.
Is it?
Let's not deny.
It came out. Come on, it came out in like 2006.
05, I think, but yeah.
But that was really good. I saw it when it came out, and I remembered like the setup to it, but I didn't remember how it played out. And so that was good. That's a fun movie.
It really is fun.
I love Mr. Murphy. I'm not going to say his first name because I never know how to pronounce it.
I thought it was Killian.
That's what I say too.
I used to call him Cillian when I was a kid. Or not a kid, but like whatever.
That was your first word.
Cillian. Like, it's Killian, you idiot.
And from then on,
I was like, oh.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed Red Eye. But that's it, really.
And we also all watched The Black Phone.
That's right. We did watch The Black Phone. A ring. Hello? This is the grabber. Why are you making calls? That's so suspicious. Like, are you trying to avoid that? Yeah, I'm just realizing that now. But I heard you guys are doing a podcast. Okay. Do you want to be our guest? You can just sit in and listen. Sure. Oh, great.
Our special guest for today is the grabber.
We have a special guest. He's just on the phone. Somehow.
We're recording this from a basement because he grabbed us all.
I'm not going to tell him that the cord isn't even, it's cut, but whatever. Life is mysterious. Just like this phone.
Well, speaking of the grabber, are you guys ready to meet our monster?
Let's do it. Yeah. Let's freaking do it.
So the grabber, his name is Albert Shaw in the book.
Shaw. Okay.
But we don't learn that in the movie. But his name is Albert, and he wears a creepy mask.
Do you like his mask?
I do. I liked how it was like there was
pieces?
Like interchangeable pieces.
Yeah.
Which was cool. What I didn't understand was like why he freaked out at the end when his mask came off.
Because they never see him without his mask.
Well, yeah, but like it wasn't like he always had his eyes covered and sometimes you saw the bottom. Like there were times when he had the bottom piece on, but you saw his eyes. Yeah. And so like you could kind of put the two together.
I'm actually glad you asked that because I wanted to ask Casey if she knew of any like serial killers who wear masks and like if they ever like kind of reveal, aside from, obviously from hiding their identity, if there was any purpose.
Well,
like, is it just the illusion of being someone else?
They wear masks. Yeah. I mean, if you want to get like real, like deep about it, you know, there's like Ted Bundy wore a mask to the world, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. Like everybody thought he was a good guy and a politician. Like he wanted to be a lawyer. No, he wasn't a politician. That was John Wayne Gacy, but John Wayne Gacy was a clown.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was a clown actually as like a profession. Did he do that to kill, or did it just so happen to be that he was a clown and was like, I'm going to kill?
No, he actually owned a kind of like a contracting company, contracting-ish, whatever. So he actually killed most of the boys that he killed. He employed through that company.
Oh,
yeah, and then he was just a clown, for fun.
Jesus.
So yeah, I mean, metaphorically.
Yeah, Zach, I read it as with the mask that he was just like, it was like a kind of a safety net, because he's sort of like one of the victims sort of kind of suggests that he doesn't see himself as a villain. He almost sees himself as more of an authority figure. So like the mask is almost like part of that authority. Because remember, he says he's like, he says he's like being a naughty boy, or, don't go upstairs. If you break the rules, that's when he punishes you. And and I may be wrong, and maybe I'm being naive, but like I actually kind of believed that because he's wearing the mask, because like obviously his identity like couldn't be revealed, that when he says to Finney, once he finds out that he broke one of the rules, he was like, I was going to let you go. Which I guess you could read as like, of course you would say that now. That's like a way to like fuck with his head. But then I was like, wait, maybe that is like sort of his MO, where like he actually is this kind of like, maybe he just had like a fucked up childhood and he's like sort of enacting that revenge on, innocent kids. And maybe there are like these specific rules that he adheres to. And maybe wearing that mask is sort of just like fucked him up. And
I'm sure there's a lot more in the book.
Yeah, I did read a theory that him and his brother had an abusive father.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
Because he does talk at one point about like the phone had been there since he was a kid. And so maybe like there was something that happened down in the basement, something. But like, and they were saying like, Max is like a drug addict because maybe he's dealing with some kind of childhood thing from their dad. So that was interesting.
And he's like they're almost like two sides of the same coin where, so let's say they were both abused as kids. Ethan Hawke's character has taken on sort of the aggressor role, whereas Max has taken on sort of the victim savior role of like, both of them are sort of like tied to victims, but one wants to hurt them, one wants to save them.
Speaking of abusive fathers, Jeremy Davies as Terrence, his character was so good.
No, it was not.
He was so mean.
I thought he did a terrible job.
Oh, you thought he did a terrible job?
So I did not think his acting was very good in this. In fact, it frustrated me a lot. You guys remember Helter Skelter, the movie?
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I know. Yeah.
So Jeremy Davies played Charles Manson.
Right.
Oh, I can see that.
He was acting like Charles Manson in this movie.
Oh, that's funny.
In my opinion.
I mean, I don't have that experience of watching him as Charles Manson. And so
I watched that movie a lot when I was in high school.
That's a good point.
But it frustrated me because in that scene with Gwen, Madeline McGraw is so good.
Yeah.
And she's a kid. And she was so good. And then to me...
it's so devastating.
It is. But to me, he was very clearly acting. Like, the part where he's, like, shaking his fist and stuff, to me, when you're, like, in a rage and you're angry, you're shaking, like, very slight, like, visibly but slight because you're so rageful.
Yeah.
And he was, like, fist pumping, kind of. I don't know.
I need to watch it again. Oh, I guess I didn't pick up on that.
So I want to come back to the acting. Your comments about the acting, but just briefly, I want to talk about his character of Terrence.
Okay.
I thought that was an excellent character because of his struggle. Like he was dealing with alcoholism, which is just in itself terrible, because he was coping from his wife's suicide.
Yeah.
On that same thread, he was trying to stop his daughter from doing all this stuff because he was trying to protect her.
Right.
And then like, that's all fueled by the alcoholism where he's like abusive and he doesn't want to be, but he's got this disease where he's just addicted to this terrible thing. And I just think that's a really good character.
Yeah. Well, his intention was to sort of respond and react to like the red flags around his daughter. But like you said, like the alcohol just exacerbates it. So it's like you could deal with that in another way. You don't have to be a fucking abusive piece of shit to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I like the character.
You don't have to like the character.
No, I do like the character.
But now coming back to the acting, there was some lines of dialogue in this movie. And I don't know if it was the dialogue itself or if it was the actors, but it seemed very scripted.
Yeah.
Like Robin and Finney talking in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, that's the tricky thing with the younger actors too.
Yeah.
I feel like that's such a tough line to just like, because you want to get like a natural performance out of kids, obviously, but all kid actors are in a lot of cases trained professionally to act. So they're like, it's like they're selling all of themselves, and maybe, you know, some actors are different. Some are maybe a little bit more naturally skilled at sort of knowing how to pull back and yet still give everything. And I feel like that's the challenge with, I see that a lot in a lot of child actors, which is like, it's like you want to just embrace it. Like, okay, they're doing a great job. But it's like, oh, but here's that standing out. Darn it. I wish it didn't.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think Madeline McGraw was amazing though in every part of this movie.
Oh, I have to say it's one of those like tricky things. I embrace it for it being part of the story and it being a necessary element, but God, it is so just not enjoyable watching those scenes of just like,
yeah, of course.
It's just torture. You're like, oh, it's just so cruel.
Which scene? Like,
just like when she's just
abused,
literally being beaten and screaming and crying, and
it's hard. They're hard to watch for sure.
But yeah, hell of a performance. And just like, you know, just in terms of the story, the dad, in a really kind of fucked up way, his behavior sort of prepares them for something even worse.
Huh.
But it's like, is that really like a means to an end if that's what they need in order to survive something so vicious? I don't know. It's just it's just sad, you know, like that these kinds of things happen in real life, and we're seeing kind of like the worst version of it.
Yeah. I think that Finney could also hear the phone because of his mom as well.
That's a good, there is so much to dissect there with like what the phone is, you know, like what it represents. But I guess you could also just go to like the literal of like the mom had this gift and passed it on to her kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see like when the phone was like breathing?
Oh,
yeah.
That was like some Videodrome.
Yes,
thing.
it was.
Like, it was like
good old Videodrome.
Quick sidebar. The song Free Ride, which plays after the baseball game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plays in Dazed and Confused.
Sure it does.
Right before the baseball game. That's great. Like the song like fades out as the baseball scene is starting in Dazed and Confused. And I was like, oh my God.
Foghat. Is it Foghat?
Is it?
Yeah, let's say yes.
I was just going to say Foghat likes baseball.
Imagine just like watching Dazed and Confused. It's like the last day of school. And then all of a sudden, halfway, it turns into the black phone where like that kid just gets kidnapped. Like,
well, I mean,
it's like how fucked up that would be.
They take place at the same time, at the same
You
time
think
frame,
you think Ben Affleck bullying him? Yeah, exactly. And you think he's like the worst part of it, but it's like, Ethan Hawke's around. Which is funny because Ethan Hawke was he's in a lot of Richard Linklater movies who directed Dazed and Confused. So it kind of would make sense. There's something there.
Mitch Kramer gets
oh my God.
gets fucking beat after the baseball game, and then he's like, hey, you want to come to this party? We'll pick you up. And then he's like, yeah, let's do it. And then on the way home, he gets taken by the grabber.
Oh my God.
And then fucking Randall Floyd has to like go pick him up, and he's like, where is he? Oh my God, we gotta find him.
Wait, we need to pitch this.
Randall Floyd, you're in need of a big attitude adjustment.
But see, he needs to use that lack of an attitude adjustment to fight the grabber in the finale.
That's right. That's right.
I was just going to ask if you liked Ethan Hawke's voice while he was the grabber.
I did.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Kind of like putting on sort of, he was like kind of like walking the line between like charming, but also a little quirky and
trying to be
goofy.
Friendly, I think. Yeah. But yeah, I liked that. What did he yell at Max for something and he sounded normal? It was like, oh.
Yeah, like he is playing, he's definitely playing a part.
Yes.
And I don't think it's a part that he necessarily has. I think he has control of it when he's in it, but I think it takes control of him. But I don't think he has a lot of control of how it like takes over. Which is like, is it supposed? Yeah, I feel like there's a lot that I didn't really consider before this episode that I'm thinking about now that we're talking about it, of like the source of this evil and like where it comes from. And is it like a form of the only way that he could sort of, I guess, digest kind of what happened to him as a kid? Or did he just snap? Like, was it just even simpler than that?
Yeah. It's even kind of childlike in itself too, the way that he does things.
Yeah. And then even the mask is like, has like demon horns. Like it looks like a human, but it's also like a monster. It's like, is that what he saw his father as? Like this, like, and maybe that's why he can take it apart. Cause there was like elements, you know, like levels of how horrible his father was to him, you know?
Oh,
maybe that's too much.
They're very exaggerated as well.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he always had a smile on his face. So that it's like,
not always.
Oh, that's true.
He had the big frown.
That's true.
And there's also a part where he doesn't have a mouth at all.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's very interesting.
Cool. I really, really liked the parts where he was sitting upstairs.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I wanted more of that. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I would have loved to see a little bit more upstairs too. Like even between him and his brother. Just kind of getting not, and I don't mean that in like I need explanations. I didn't need them to tell me what happened, you know, in their past, but they were just interesting characters.
But more like their relationship, though.
Yeah, just who they were.
Really, you don't even see them together. Well, you don't see them together at all until
it's revealed.
Yeah,
and even like when he's going out to the store, like little things like that, like just seeing a villain like that, like kind of out in the open. Just comes with its own sort of tension.
But you don't know who it could be either.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and I guess there is something to be said for like just seeing him through the perspective of the kid primarily. I mean, maybe we're like digging for something that is just so obvious. The fact that like he and Max were abused as kids, because we obviously see Finney and Gwen are abused. And then we see, so it's kind of like setting us up. But then the fact that they live together is like, they're the only people they trust, which is like so heartbreaking.
He comes downstairs and he says something's come up. I just got a phone call and something's come up. That was his brother asking to come stay with him.
Yeah, because his brother didn't live there. His brother was like visiting.
Right.
Oh, you know what's funny? He said he's visiting from Durango, which is where I was living the past year and a half.
Oh, really? In Colorado?
During the pandemic, yeah.
Oh, Max lived there.
Durango's cute. He was living. He should have stayed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like how they, you know, quote unquote, introduce him, because we don't get the full introduction until he steals Finney, right? We just see those moments where like a kid will go somewhere and you just see him in his van, like stepping out.
We see his outline where he's wearing his cape when he abducts Robin.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because the first time when it's Bruce, you just see the van.
Right.
And then when it's Robin, then he gets out of the van and then just they're just like feeding you little bits. And then like the way he's talking when he dumps his groceries out on the guy, he's like, oh gee, that's so silly of me, you know, like oh man.
It's like, I wonder if it's the idea of abducting. It's like one thing to, if he and his brother were abused, it's another thing to like put on this whole charade. And it's like, did his father do that? Did his father abduct kids too and like keep them in that basement? It's just this persona that he creates. I'm just really curious about like where he pulls that from. You know, like, is he mimicking his father? Is he just sort of, or is he just kind of like going at polar opposite of who his dad was like?
I would think he's not like mimicking his dad in the sense that like his dad kidnapped kids, but like his dad abused him. And so he's like kind of like replaying, kind of like role playing this thing where he's his dad. And then the kids that he takes are him or his brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like in that position now that he can. I don't know.
Did you guys like the supernatural part?
I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a way to interpret this movie on a more grounded level where there is no supernatural element and Finney has sort of been forced to live through being a survivor at such a young age against an abuser, that maybe he could anticipate the sort of behaviors, I guess, of the grabber, to be like, you know, he can sort of like read him. He like knows him in a way that like most kids his age maybe wouldn't be able to read an adult, or an adult who is maybe unhinged.
So you're saying that like, is there a way to interpret this where the people on the phone aren't really there?
Yeah, like it was almost a coping mechanism.
Well, one thing that I could think that would like debunk that theory is that like he finds the combination on the wall. Like, how would he know to go up to the door and use that on a padlock?
Especially since we're seeing it in real time. Yeah, and exactly. Yeah.
So you guys probably realized this while you were watching it, that all of those, you know, they all are trying to help him, and none of it
works.
Helps, right? But it still does, because he uses every single part of that.
Yeah.
At the very end.
That was so cool. I loved that.
They're like, no, we knew that would happen.
And for some reason, I didn't realize that. And the second time I'm watching it, I forgot about the dog. So every time he does something, I'm like, oh yeah. And then at the end, he falls in the hole. Oh, and he uses that as a tripwire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was like, but why the fuck is there a bunch of meat?
Yeah.
What does he do with the meat? And then I saw the dog and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
No, that was very cool.
How does he kill him? Does he just, he strangles him. So could he still be alive?
No, I think because he strangles him, and then like he like puts the phone up to his ear and they're like talking to him, which was also really cool. Yeah. Because all the things the kids were saying to him, you think they're saying it to Finney, but really it's about him, about the grabber. But then right after that, he like yanks or slams down or something, and you hear like a crack. Like it would have been his neck cracking.
Okay. So it's definitive.
Dude, okay. Spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah. And get on it if you haven't, for the love of Pete.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs by now, that's your fault. I love that they pulled a Silence of the Lambs twist in this with the houses.
Oh, that's so funny. I didn't even think. I was literally, I said that to Cody. I was like, this is like Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah. Going in, it's like, it's the same thing where it's like a buildup and they keep cutting back and forth. And you're like, you know, they're going towards each other. Like he's getting attacked and they're going to the door and this and this. And then you get there and it's like wrong house. Ugh. Oh my gosh.
It's like heart sinking. And correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, this is the only time that I've watched. Usually I watch a movie like a couple days, if not a night before we record this. I watched this last week. But correct me if I'm wrong, that the house was right across the street.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He owned both of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was really funny. I saw this in theaters with Sam, and he said something when it was over to the tune of, you know how terrible the economy is. Now, if this man was able to afford to buy 2 houses on a magician's salary.
Well, he probably would have just rented it out as like an Airbnb or something.
Oh, man.
That's so funny.
Speaking of Finney using, call me Finn, he says at the end. Speaking of Finn,
God.
Using all the things that the kids tell him about at the end to get the grabber. When he is trying to when he breaks through the wall to get to the freezer.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get that panel off, so he needs something to undo the screw. He totally pulls a Dumb and Dumber at the toilet. He like opens the back of the toilet and he's like looking for something and he pulls out like the float thing and he looks at it and then he just like throws it on the ground.
Like when he's trying to figure out how to fucking flush his giant dude. Yeah.
I had to laugh. I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. You know what else was really funny? And I don't know if this was supposed to be funny, but I thought it was when Gwen asked and she prayed to Jesus to help do all this stuff. And then like the next scene or whatever, she's like, Jesus, what the fuck? She's like,
Gwen gets some of the best lines in the movie. When she calls one of the she calls the detective a dumb fucking fart knocker.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah.
I had to remember to write that one down because I was like, that was funny. She does another one later.
Oh my God, when those bully kids are beating up Finn and she comes in to like save her brother. And she throws the rock at that kid and he's like bleeding profusely from his skull. Oh
she's
my
a badass.
God. Mm-hmm. And then she gets kicked in the teeth and she like goes and sits down next to him like,
yep,
we did our part. We're sitting this one out.
Yeah.
Let's just sit here and watch Finny get kicked in the fucking face.
We have nothing to offer this moment right now. Let's just not even argue.
Yeah, I thought the kids were the other boys who were taken. I thought they were all the characters were really good.
Yeah.
I loved the relationship between Finny and Robin. That was really good.
I know, so sad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like something inevitably is going to happen to Robin because they set him up as the protector earlier on. But do you ever watch like a horror movie? Like I love horror movies. Obviously, we love horror movies. But do you ever watch some horror movies where you're like, okay, now stop right here. Don't get fucked up. I just want to see like the happy version of this.
Can't this just be a rom-com?
Exactly. Like I just want to see like a buddy movie where like they go into like and have adventures and like I will be happy with that.
They go have adventures? Like it turns into The Hobbit?
Yeah, sure. Local 70s Denver.
Samwise and Frodo.
Denver. Yeah, exactly. But it's a testament to good storytelling, good characters, and good acting.
Yeah, I mean, just because of the kind of stuff that I like, I wish there would have been more
like gruesome fucked up shit.
Yeah.
I get that.
Mm.
Like, I wish maybe we could have seen what happened to the other kids.
Yeah. Yeah, we need more of that on screen. We need
Yeah, but I mean, I want to watch Ethan Hawke
murder.
Well, I want to watch Ethan Hawke wearing that mask, topless, beating a kid with a belt.
Oh my
God. Okay? Yeah, I said it. Okay?
Those are all the deleted scenes. It's like, good Lord.
Gosh.
This is just uncut.
Yeah, you had mentioned him sitting in the chair earlier when that first time they show it when he doesn't have his shirt on and he's just sitting there.
Uh-huh.
That was fucking intense because you don't expect it.
It's such like a power move.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about reveals in this movie? I would say there is 4.
Okay.
I would say there is the van.
Mm-hmm.
The first time he gets out of the van, which you don't really see him, just in the background. Finny getting taken.
Yep.
And I would count the reveal to his brother, who like his brother doesn't see it coming.
Of course.
But he gets him in the head.
I didn't even
Which
think
is
of
my
that.
favorite.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
I just had it where the one where like he meets Finny for the first time, like face to face when he's like wearing the mask.
Yeah.
When he's wearing the mask or when
when they're like in the basement and he kind of like is like, I'm a bad guy. Like you're in my
I'm a bad guy.
I'm a bad guy.
Yeah, I like the one with Max mostly because it was I the first time I watched it, I didn't expect it. There was definitely a lot of gasps in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And because this movie did end as happily as it could, right? But you're still thinking that, oh, he's down there, he's going to help him. You know what I mean? Like, this is how he's going to escape, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love that he's like so invested into this, character, if that's what you want to call it, or this persona. He's so invested in all of this stuff that he's doing that he killed his own brother.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even then he's like,
he's willing.
fuck. Like, it just had to be done.
Yeah.
You can see how he separates himself from like the emotion.
Yeah. That's my favorite.
What I specifically liked was they kind of highlight it in the trailer, so it's kind of like a moment. But when he does that, like, he's very like theatrical, and he has that line, and he's like, this face, and he like lifts his hands up.
Yes.
And it's so spooky the way he does that. And Ethan Hawke, his delivery is so good. Yeah. So that moment specifically, I really like. So I feel like that's where we're meeting the grabber. Like, that's who he is.
Yeah. Yeah. When that's when he says,
yeah,
I never saw your face, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was good. Ethan Hawke is so good.
So good. It's crazy. Ethan Hawke is like a fine wine. He's just gotten better with age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you really think about it,
but I mean,
I feel like he's
Dead Poets Society.
Better. That's true.
Dead Poets Society was.
So he's like a good gin.
It's
just good.
what does Ben Affleck say in Jay and Silent Bob?
Oh.
he's like, but Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms.
Dean like, Kuntz's Phantoms.
Hawk was the bomb in Dead Poets Society. I would say my favorite reveal is probably when Finney gets taken. Just because of like him dropping the groceries. Mm-hmm. And like Finney, like, what the fuck are you thinking, man? Yeah. Like, you're so like aware of all these missing kids, and they're like all your friends, and you're like this, but then like you go up to a creepy guy in a van and say you'll help him or whatever. Like,
I'm really glad you just said that. So I have a question. Did they set up with Finney and his father? So like I could see an argument being made that like if he empathized or even I guess just sympathized with his father after he was abusive and like kind of took care of him, I could see like he sees someone who could be a threat, but I still am going to sympathize first. But now I want to go back and watch that point. Because to your point, he knows this is going on. He lives in an abusive home. That's the first person to like just cut and run.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
So maybe there is something there. Because I thought that too. I was like, of all people, what are you doing?
Yeah, that would definitely make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we first meet, maybe not when we first meet him, but one of the first moments that we see Finney, he's shooting off the little rocket ship. And then we see that he has the rocket ship pen. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, how do you interpret that?
He's also wearing NASA pajamas the whole time.
I think it's implied that he wants to leave. He wants to sort of get out of this small town, escape, be his own man. Like, he doesn't like where he is. I was sort of hoping, and maybe it's implied, but I was kind of hoping to see kind of a conclusion where, and again, maybe he's too young, but like that he actually leaves. He gets his sister out of there. They get their, I know that they were trying to build some emotion and sympathy around the dad, but I kind of wish we got the opposite, where it's like, here's another villain, even if he is groveling, like he's still an abuser. And I almost kind of wish CPS or whatever it is came and took them away.
Yeah.
I think that with the way that I think that the ending was implying that dad's going to quit drinking and quit beating his children because he realized that he almost lost his son.
Gotcha. Maybe I'm just less forgiving. I don't know.
Well, no, but I think that's why he apologized and all that kind of stuff. I think that's kind of what they were going for there.
I get that.
He understood the weight of what was happening.
I get that.
One thing about the end that I thought was cool is the one kid who he's talking to on the phone, who I think might be the paper boy. One of the kids says, "One day you're invisible, and the next, the whole state knows your name, like knows who you are."
Yeah.
And you kind of get that at the end when people were always like beating up on Finney and this and that. And then, but at the end he's walking through the halls and like everybody knows who he is, but it's for like a good reason and not that like he was killed.
Yeah. He's like the one outlier in that.
We'll get to that during the real monster.
Oh shit.
Well, now it's time for a segment that I like to call the real monster.
Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man.
You're a monster.
I'm not the monster here. You are. You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world. Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me.
Casey, go ahead. Now's your time to shine. Tell me about Finney walking through the hallways.
Yeah, I don't really know like what to call it as far as the real monster, but I really didn't like the end of this movie because this kid just went through the most traumatic experience of his life and he's like, I'm cool and I got the girl. Like that doesn't make any fucking sense. That made like it made me so upset.
I think that's why I was kind of craving the escape. You know, like he escaped the room.
Like not everything is fine now.
Yeah, like yeah.
In fact, it's worse.
Yeah.
This boy needs therapy even more now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like he learned to like, you know, I mean, clearly it's like the whole thing is that he's learning to stand up for himself.
Yeah, but you know,
I get it though.
Still would have a lot of weight.
I didn't understand the very last line.
What
where she's like Finney and he's like, call me Finn.
Because he's like fucking grown up now. Because he killed a serial killer.
He's like, I'm a murderer.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
It's like, I snapped a man's neck with a phone cord. That's
impossible
to do for a 12-year-old.
Yeah, that's why I still go by Danny. I haven't killed anyone yet.
I'm still a child.
That one day you say, call me Dan.
Yeah, so whatever you want to call it, that was my real monster.
Okay.
Is trauma not being dealt with properly.
Sure.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Because you know what? That just perpetuates, right? So now he's going to either turn into an abusive father or
to play into like the whole, not even theme of the movie,
There's
just
two
sort
options.
of like the whole plot of the movie is it could have ended with him making a phone call, calling a lawyer, like take him away, and it's him and Gwen.
Yeah.
You'd be like, listen, dude, I need to get the fuck out of here. This guy's crazy. My sister opened up a drawer and my dad flipped a shit. Like, this is not okay.
I've got a couple real monsters.
Okay.
all right.
I've got a couple real monsters. Number one, alcoholism.
Yeah.
True.
Just there's my serious
awful.
real monster. Kids watching fights. Like
Yeah.
in movies and like they all gather around in a circle and fight. But
Does that
like
really
nobody stops the kids from fighting.
I've seen that happen. I was actually almost involved in a fight.
Really?
I love that you went back. I was involved. I was almost involved.
No, it was such like a classic like high school comedy kind of movie scene where like this guy came up to me and he was like, yo, meet me up by the bus loop. I'm going to kick your ass. I was like, okay. And I was kind of just like a pain in the ass as a kid. So I was like, sure. And I met him there and he was like, yo, let's fight. And I was like, okay. And I was kind of playing this like very lackadaisical card because he was much bigger than me. Like he could have probably beaten me up. And he was like, fucking let's do it. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And I was just kind of like being like an asshole, like just kind of coming back with everything he was saying. I was like mirroring it. And then he was like, watch your back, bitch. And he walked away. And I was like, what just happened? I was like, I thought this was going to be a fight. I was like so prepared for it. He just left. But anyways, sorry to diverge into such like a tangent, but.
No, that's okay. I have one more, and it is picking partners in school.
Yeah, what a shitty
that
bullshit.
Sucked. Huh? I hated that. Yep. They said you're gonna pick partners, and like, okay, pick a partner. I would just like be like, fuck.
Yeah,
dude, especially in gym class.
Mm-hmm. You like see who your true friends aren't. Like, no, I thought we were like tight.
Yeah, it's like you look at your friend and they're looking at somebody else and you're like, oh shit.
Like,
no.
Okay.
I did this thing. I coped really well in gym class by being funny. So it was like I was really bad at whatever we were doing, and I knew that everybody else was going to think that I was really bad at it, but as long as I was being funny about it, then they were laughing at me for being funny, not laughing at me for being bad at whatever we were doing.
Yeah. Danny, who do you have for Real Monster?
Oh yeah, my Real Monster. I had two. The real one is just Finney and Gwen's dad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I believe in forgiveness, but I'm not sure if it was earned by the end of the movie.
Oh no, definitely not.
Acknowledging that you're an abuser does not absolve you of your, abusive sins.
If he abused them for 6 years, he's got 12 years of making up.
Yeah, that's his way of, begging forgiveness should have come with, I'm not fit to be your father. I'm going to find you a new home. I'm going
to call CPS.
Yeah, seriously. But I will make sure I am observant of your livelihood and making sure you're okay. I'm not abandoning you. That's the work I'm going to put in. That's bare minimum. But also whoever is giving Gwen her visions, because they are so just all over the place and inconsistent. And it's if you're going to commit to this with such a young person, just go all in, because she's not mature enough to understand interpretation and, inconsistencies like that. So yeah, fuck that.
I think it was Jesus.
It was Jesus.
Jesus is the real monster. I think it was,
Isn't he always?
I think it was Jesus. What if Jesus was in the Universal Horror Nights, the Halloween Horror Nights at Universal? Just Jesus pops up at the end. It's the final jump scare. If you scroll to the end of the credits of the Black Phone, it says, "Special thanks to Jesus." He was a big help with the supernatural stuff.
Well, do you guys have anything else to add about the Black Phone or the Grabber?
No.
I don't, aside from the fact that, you can't go wrong with casting Ethan Hawke.
That's right. Just a top-notch guy.
Yep. Top-notch guy.
Top-notch.
That's what they say in Hollywood.
He's the bee's knees, you see? That's Hollywood, baby.
Okay, well, that's all that we have for the Black Phone then.
Guys, I feel like a terrible host. I forgot that we've had the Grabber on the line this entire recording.
Oh my God.
I know. I've heard him breathing the whole time, but I got so used, you hear a sound, it kind of becomes just kind of white noise.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to pick up the phone and just, we can all talk to him, or I can talk to, it's up to you.
Just hang up.
Hey,
just hang up.
Oh, okay. Wait, should I? Okay. Let's pretend.
He doesn't deserve anything from you.
That's a great point. After this whole conversation, this is a terrible
Danny.
guest.
He kills children.
Yeah, this is a terrible guest.
Yeah.
All right. I just hung up.
Okay.
I did want to say one little thing. Because this movie deals with the supernatural, do you think that there is a possibility that there could be a sequel in which the Grabber is the supernatural presence?
Ooh, that's interesting.
I want to say that would be cool, but it probably wouldn't be. My first instinct was that'd be cool, but then it wouldn't
something
be something
there. Yeah, exactly. It all depends. I feel like it would have to be a very different approach.
Mm-hmm.
You would need to obviously keep in the general elements of communication, whatever that. Maybe it's not a phone, maybe it's something else, but there needs to be something to kind of as a connective thread. But
what if this turns into a franchise, and it's by the time you get to the Black Phone 6, he's
he is the phone.
He's
the phone has legs.
He's like the talking can in Wet Hot American Summer.
Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking about what if the Grabber did become like a supernatural villain, and like the opening scene of the movie is like this kid coming home, and he walks in the house alone, and the idea is that like if you get a message on your answering machine from the Grabber, that means he's already kind of like, you know, like attached himself to you. So like the kid comes home, he's home alone. He's like a latchkey kid. His parents are still at work, and he like checks the answering machine, and it's just the Grabber's voice. And he's like talking to him, and he's like telling him that he's in the house.
That's definitely
and then all of a sudden, like
a good idea.
I don't know. He can like collect kids that way.
And then the parents come home and they're like, we don't have an answering machine. The answering machine has been out of batteries.
That's the twist.
The parents come home and they're like, it's 2022. People don't use answering machines anymore.
I don't know. Talk about Hollywood, baby. That's a franchise.
So that's all the time we have for the Black Phone. Make sure to follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram at How I Met Your Monster, Twitter, if Elon doesn't block us, at I Met Your Monster. But guess what, guys? We're also on TikTok. Find us on TikTok. How I Met Your Monster. Where can our listeners find you guys on social media?
I am on Instagram at WolfMotherCasey.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at my name, which is Danny Salem, DANNYSALEMME. That's 2 M's, like the candy, melt in your butt, not in your hands.
Wonderful. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Zach Winsick. Thank you all for listening. Now go meet some monsters.